A Course in Miracles, Lesson 167. There is one life, and that I share with God. There are not different kinds of life, for life is like the truth. It does not have degrees. It is the one condition in which all that God created share. Like all his thoughts, it has no opposite. There is no death because what God created shares his life. There is no death because an opposite to God does not exist. There is no death because the Father and the Son are one. There are not different kinds of life because there are not different kinds of truth. Just like a child of truth doesn't come in degrees, either you are born of it or you're dreaming otherwise. Truth is not part-time and life is not part-way. It doesn't show up for some and hide from others. It's not one way in India and another way in Chicago. Truth is whole, and life is whole because God is whole. And a child of the truth carries the same condition as their Creator, changeless, deathless, unified. That condition isn't earned, learned, or found in a lifetime of searching. It's shared, because that's the nature of truth. What God creates shares his life because it extends him, not as pieces, but as presence. So if you believe there are different kinds of life, you must also believe there are different kinds of God. But a child of the truth cannot believe in opposites because the truth has no rival. And therefore death is not real, not as punishment, not as escape, not as a final door. There is no death because there is no opposite to what God is. And the Father and the Son are one. That's not metaphor. That's identity. And the child of truth does not argue with what they are. In this world, there appears to be a state that is life's opposite. You call it death. Yet we have learned that the idea of death takes many forms. It is the one idea which underlies all feelings that are not supremely happy. It is the alarm to which you give response of any kind that is not perfect joy. All sorrow, loss, anxiety and suffering and pain, even a little sigh of weariness, a slight discomfort or the merest frown, acknowledge death, and thus deny you live. In this world there appears to be a state that is life's opposite. You call it death. Haha. But death is just a word the ego uses to describe what it cannot understand. And we've already learned that the idea of death takes many forms. It's not always a coffin or a last breath. Sometimes it's a slow sigh, a shrug, a little tightening behind the eyes. Death hides in the unnoticed places, the subtle ways you forget you are a child of truth. It is one idea, one root lie, that underlies all feelings that are not supremely happy. And why is not being supremely happy like death? Because if you remembered the truth, you'd have no reason to feel anything but joy. Perfect happiness is not a reward, it's your inheritance. To be anything less is to be dreaming of exile. It is the silent alarm to which you respond with anything short of perfect joy. The alarm doesn't blare, it whispers through sorrow, through loss, through anxiety, through pain. Even a small sigh of weariness is a nod to death. Even the slightest discomfort, the faintest frown, is a way the ego nods at its own illusion and calls it life. But what is the merest frown, mighty companion, if not the denial that you live in God? To frown is to forget you're the child of truth. To ache is to forget your Father. To suffer is to forget you share one life, and that life knows no opposite. You think that death is of the body. Yet it is but an idea, irrelevant to what is seen as physical. A thought is in the mind. It can be then applied as mind directs it. But its origin is where it must be changed if change occurs. Ideas leave not their source. The emphasis this course has placed on that idea is due to its centrality in our attempts to change your mind about yourself. It is the reason you can heal. It is the cause of healing. It is why you cannot die. Its truth established you as one with God. You think that death is of the body, but it is not. Death is not a malfunction of flesh, nor the ending of breath, nor the stillness of a heart. It is but an idea, and every idea lives only in the mind. That's why death is irrelevant to what is seen as physical. Because the body does not think, so the body does not choose, the body does not create death. A thought is in the mind, and only the mind can apply it. So mind is the source. And if the source is where it begins, then the source is where it must be changed. You cannot uproot an idea by hacking at its shadows. You must return to the root. Because ideas leave not their source. The echo is still in the canyon, but the voice came from the mountaintop. The wave still crashes on the shore, but it rose from the deep ocean beneath. A puppet moves, but only because of the hand that animates it. So if you suffer, it is not the world that hurts you. It is the thought you still believe. And if you don't change it there, it will keep growing illusions everywhere else. But if you do change it, even once, you will see that death has never touched you. The child of truth does not chase ghosts. The child of truth returns to the altar of mind where all illusions begin and end. That is why this course emphasizes death so much. Not to glorify it, but to expose it as central to the lie you tell about yourself. It is the ego's crown jewel, the story of endings. But the child of truth was never born and cannot die. You are an idea in the mind of God. And how do you kill an idea? You can't. You don't even see ideas. You only see their projections. You can forget them. You can deny them. You can try to rewrite them. But you cannot make them leave their source. And you cannot make them die. This is why healing is possible. This is why you cannot die. Because truth established you as one with God, and what is one with God cannot be threatened. And what is one with God is still as God created it. Death is the thought that you are separate from your Creator. It is the belief conditions change. Emotions alternate because of causes you cannot control, you did not make, and you can never change. It is the fixed belief ideas can leave their source and take on qualities the source does not contain, becoming different from their own origin, apart from it in kind as well as distance, time, and form. Death is the thought that you are separate from your Creator. It is not just the end of a body. It is the belief that you have an end. It is the idea that what God created as eternal can somehow fall apart. It is the belief that conditions change, that love can turn to fear, that peace can be shattered by news, weather, or someone else's voice. That joy is only temporary, and sorrow has the final word. It is the thought that emotions alternate because of causes you cannot control. Causes you did not make and can never change. It is the lie that what is outside you rules what is within you. And that is death, not a coffin, not a grave, but a split in your own mind. It is the fixed belief that ideas can leave their source. And not only leave, but take on qualities the source never had. Like trying to add shadows to the sun. Or imagining that a river could poison its own spring. It's the belief that God's creation can become something else, something unlike Him, something apart from Him in kind, in distance, in time, and in form. But the child of the truth knows that what God creates cannot stray far and still be real. You can dream you're different, but your source does not change. You can pretend to be broken, but your origin remains whole. The idea that you can be separate from your Creator is the idea of death. But the child of truth sees it as nonsense, like trying to put a shadow on light and hoping it sticks. You were created by changelessness, and so you cannot truly change. You were created by love, and so you cannot truly hate. You were created eternal, and so you cannot truly die. Death cannot come from life. Ideas remain united to their source. They can extend all that their source contains. In that they can go far beyond themselves, but they cannot give birth to what was never given them. As they are made, so will their making be. As they were born, so will they then give birth. And where they come from, there will they return. Death cannot come from life, because life is life, and life can only give what it is. Life doesn't turn into death, just as light doesn't suddenly turn into darkness. Life does not betray itself. An apple tree does not bear thorns. A river does not suddenly dry into sand at its source. Ideas remain united to their source. They extend what their source contains, and only that. They can go far beyond themselves in space, in image, in scope, but they cannot give birth to what was never planted in them. A seed that was never sown cannot grow. No matter how much dirt you throw on top or how much water you pour, if there was no seed, there can be no harvest. And so too, if God never placed death in you, you cannot bring it forth. As they are made, so will their making be. If you were made by eternal love, you can only extend eternal love. If you were breathed by truth, you cannot give breath to illusion. As they were born, so will they then give birth. You cannot birth what you were not born of, and where they come from, there will they return. Just as waves return to the ocean and sparks rise back into flame. The child of truth is not here to invent, but to extend. Not to rewrite creation, but to remember it. You were made by God. So what you truly make must carry God's signature. And what doesn't is not creation, but imagination. Only truth creates. Only love gives. And only life lives. The mind can think it sleeps, but that is all. It cannot change what is its waking state. It cannot make a body, nor abide within a body. What is alien to the mind does not exist because it has no source. For mind creates all things that are, and cannot give them attributes it lacks, nor change its own eternal mindful state. It cannot make the physical. What seems to die is but the sign of mind asleep. The mind can think it sleeps, but that is all. It cannot actually change what it is. It can dream of separation, but it cannot become what it is not. It cannot lose what God gave it. Its waking state is not lost, only forgotten. The mind cannot make a body, nor can it abide within a body. The mind doesn't shrink down to fit inside a rib cage. It doesn't live in the skull or behind the eyes. The mind is not in the body is in the mind. What is alien to the mind does not exist, because it has no source. Oh, now we go deep, mighty companion. If something has no source, it has no life. If it was not born of God, it cannot be real. Like a hologram with no projector. Like a shadow with no light to cast it. Like a whisper no one spoke. It seems to appear, but it has no origin. And what has no origin cannot have being. For the mind creates all things that are. Yes, the mind, not the brain. Yes, your mind, not the world's. But wait, does that mean the mind creates the world and the body? No, it projects the body. It doesn't create the physical, because the physical is not real. Creation is eternal, changeless, formless. A mind cannot create what it lacks. and it lacks form. So it cannot make the physical. Let that settle, mighty companion. The mind cannot make the physical. That's why anything physical can seem to die, because it's not real. What seems to die is but the sign of a mind asleep. How do you know the mind is dreaming? Because you believe in death. Because you think you can lose something real. Because you think what you are could end. But the child of truth knows better. They do not mourn the fading of shadows. They wake up. And in waking, they remember the mind remains as God created it. The opposite of life can only be another form of life. As such, it can be reconciled with what created it, because it is not opposite in truth. Its form may change, it may appear to be what it is not. Yet mind is mind, awake or sleeping. It is not its opposite in anything created, nor in what it seems to make when it believes it sleeps. The opposite of life can only be another form of life. You heard that right, mighty companion. Even what seems like death is still happening inside the living mind. Nothing can exist outside of life, not even the illusion of its opposite. Because life is all-encompassing, and there is nowhere else to go. So death is not an opposite, it is a distorted echo. A puppet made of fear that still moves within the hand of life, and as such, it can be reconciled with what created it, because it was never truly separate. Even illusions rise and fall within the dreamer's mind, not outside of it. Its form may change, it may appear to be what it is not. It may wear a costume and call itself something new, but it is still the child dressing up in a mask, pretending, not becoming. Mind is mind, awake or sleeping. Just as the sun is still the sun, whether it's shining in noon or obscured by fog, it is not its opposite in anything it creates. It cannot split itself and become what it is not, nor can it make something else that's truly unlike itself. And what it seems to make while it dreams is still made of the dreaming mind. The child of truth may dream of being lost, but the truth still holds them unmoved. The child of truth may dream of death, but even in the dream, life remains the bed beneath the tossing. So the Course does not ask us to destroy illusions, only to stop calling them real, because nothing can truly leave the source of life. Not even the idea of its opposite. God creates only mind awake. He does not sleep, and his creations cannot share what he gives not, nor make conditions which he does not share with them. The thought of death is not the opposite to thoughts of life. Forever unopposed by opposites of any kind, the thoughts of God remain forever changeless, with the power to extend forever changelessly, but yet within themselves, for they are everywhere. God creates only mind awake. He does not sleep, and therefore his creations cannot dream. He does not forget, and so his creations cannot be confused. He does not change, and so his creations cannot decay, age, or die. What God does not give cannot be shared, and his creations cannot make conditions he does not share with them. So sorrow, loss, and death, these are not divine gifts. They are mistaken beliefs that come from a dreaming mind. This is not about physical sleep. This is about the mind's belief that it can leave its source. But even in the dream, the truth remains untouched. The thought of death is not the opposite to the thoughts of life. Because the thoughts of God have no opposite. They are forever unopposed, untouched by any illusion. The thoughts of God remain forever changeless. They are not threatened by nightmares. They are not corrected by time. They are not reversed by pain. They are changeless, and yet they have the power to extend, and they extend changelessly, like light radiating without altering its nature. like peace expanding without ever needing to defend itself. They extend forever, but always within themselves, not because they are limited, but because they are everything. There is nowhere they are not, so there is nowhere to go. The child of truth doesn't roam to find God. The child of truth realizes that what is everywhere has already found them. You are surrounded by the thoughts of God, because you are one of them. You extend what you are, and what you are is changeless. What seems to be the opposite of life is merely sleeping. When the mind elects to be what it is not, and to assume an alien power which it does not have, a foreign state it cannot enter, or a false condition not within its source, it merely seems to go to sleep a while. It dreams of time, an interval in which what seems to happen never has occurred. The changes wrought are substanceless, and all events are nowhere. When the mind awakes, it but continues as it always was. What seems to be the opposite of life is merely sleeping. It is not death, it is forgetfulness. It is the mind closing its eyes and dreaming it is something else. When the mind elects to be what it is not, it tries to be limited. It pretends to be a body. It says, I am this face, this history, this fear, this name. But it is not. When the mind assumes an alien power which it does not have, it tries to create without love. It imagines it can judge, attack, control, and kill. But those are not powers. They are illusions of power. The mind is not a tyrant. It is a child of truth. When the mind attempts to enter a foreign state, it tries to enter separation, a realm where God is absent. But there is no such realm. The mind cannot leave what holds it in being. When the mind imagines a false condition not within its source, it dreams of sickness, of loss, of aging, of endings. But these are not in God. And what is not in God cannot be real. So what happens then? It merely seems to go to sleep a while. It dreams of time, of a story with chapters, plots, and characters. It dreams of cause and effect laid out across past and future. But it is just an interval in which what seems to happen has never occurred. The stage is empty, and the script unwritten. But the dream continues until it doesn't. The changes wrought are substanceless. They shake nothing real. They move illusions around and call it history. All events, all wars, births, breakups, and deaths are nowhere. They are dream events in a dream world with no location. They happen in a mind that thinks it left home but never did. When the mind awakes, it but continues as it always was. The child of truth opens its eyes and remembers it never left the light. Let us today be children of the truth and not deny our holy heritage. Our life is not as we imagine it. Who changes life because he shuts his eyes, or makes himself what he is not because he sleeps, and sees in dreams an opposite to what he is? We will not ask for death in any form today, nor will we let imagined opposites to life abide even an instant where the thought of life eternal has been set by God himself. Let us today be children of the truth. Let us not deny our holy heritage. We are not made of dust and decay. We are not born to die, to lose, to suffer, to mourn. We are born of light, and light knows no end. Our life is not as we imagine it. It is not a flicker between two darknesses. It is not a fragile thread waiting to be cut. It is not held hostage by form or time or chance. Who changes life by closing their eyes? Who becomes something they are not just by falling asleep? Can the sun stop shining because the moon appears? Can the ocean become a desert because a wave forgets its depth? You cannot make yourself what you are not, even in dreams. And in dreams you may see an opposite to what you are, but seeing is not knowing. We will not ask for death in any form today, not through fear or fatigue or the silent wish to disappear. We will not let imagined opposites of life abide. We will not welcome guilt or sacrifice or sorrow as if they belong. Even an instant is too long to host a lie, especially when the thought of life eternal has been set by God Himself. God placed His thought of life in us, and it is unshakable. Let us not crowd it out with fantasies of opposites, because the truth has no rival, and the child of truth has no opposite. His holy home we strive to keep today as He established it, and wills it be forever and forever. He is Lord of what we think today. And in His thoughts, which have no opposite, we understand there is one life, and that we share with Him, with all creation, with their thoughts as well, whom He created in a unity of life that cannot separate in death and leave the source of life from where it came. His holy home we strive to keep today, not by building it, not by fixing it, but by keeping it as He established it. Because God's home was never broken, and He wills it be as He created, forever and forever. We do not place our will above His. We do not try to decorate truth with illusions. He is Lord of what we think today. And in His thoughts, which have no opposites, we understand there is one life. Not many kinds of life. Not lives with levels or rankings or stories to compare. But one life, whole, radiant, indivisible. And that life we share with Him. We are not visitors in His house. We are not servants in His kingdom. We are extensions of His thought, children of His light, living in Him as He lives in us. We share this one life with all creation. Every being that ever seemed to live, lives now still in that one life, because God created all in a unity of life. Not unity as concept, but unity as fact. And in that life there can be no separation. Not by war, not by death, not by forgetting, not even by dreaming. For what God creates in unity cannot separate in death, and it cannot leave the source of life from where it came. Because to leave the source would be to leave existence, and that is impossible. The child of truth is not drifting between here and there. The child of truth abides where truth placed them, and that place is forever. We share one life because we have one source, a source from which perfection comes to us, remaining always in the holy minds which He created perfect. As we were, so are we now and will forever be. A sleeping mind must waken, as it sees its own perfection mirroring the Lord of life so perfectly it fades into what is reflected there. And now it is no more a mere reflection. It becomes the thing reflected, and the light which makes reflection possible. No vision now is needed. For the wakened mind is one that knows its source, its self, its holiness. We share one life because we have one source, not two, not many, just one. And from that source perfection comes to us, not in pieces, not over time, but as a gift already given. Perfection remains always in the holy minds which He created perfect. There has been no interruption. There has been no distortion in what God gave. As we were, so are we now. And so will we forever be. There is no evolution in eternity. A sleeping mind must waken. It cannot dream forever, no matter how convincing the story becomes. And when it begins to stir, it sees. It sees its own perfection. Not as something earned, but as something remembered. And in that perfection, it sees a mirror, reflecting the Lord of life so perfectly, that the mirror begins to fade into the light. It is no longer just a reflection. It becomes the thing reflected, and the light which makes reflection possible. Now no vision is needed. No symbols, no metaphors, no bodies, no words. For the wakened mind is one that knows. It knows its source. It knows its capital S self. It knows its holiness. It knows it was never lost. And it knows that awakening is not a change, but a return to what never changed. That's the whole lesson, mighty companions. From the illusion of death, to the stillness of truth, to the remembering that we are the light, the life, and the thought of God.